Hello. I wish you doing well. In the past they said survival of the strongest, and many said that this saying is valid only in the forest world and not in the human world. And I will not repeat what many say that the human world has gradually turned into a forest world where prey is weak. But I will say that the term strongest is not intended it only as physical strength, but it is also called mental, emotional, and psychological strength. Everyone who knows his tools, trusts his abilities, controls his nerves, and sets his goals, is undisputedly strong, and here will remain for him, but unfortunately, we took this expression only on its surface, and we did not try to reflect on the meaning of strength. As we always associate strength with muscles, we forget that strength is qualitative, and varies from person to person and from subject to person. So do we deny that our strength is at some moments embodied in the height of our weakness, for strength cannot be limited to a specific condition, shape, or content. It is recited in different situations, but what we must always remember is that staying is actually for the strongest. And the strong refuses to surrender, he always puts in mind that life was created for him and he must prove his presence in it as long as he lives on its soil, so he uses all his tools to achieve his goals, and proves that he is entitled to stay. Let us realize the importance of this survival. It is possible that we live throughout our life even though we have gone to annihilation since we realized life. Survival is our presence on the land of life. Even if our souls and our bodies go to the courtyard of the human being, and he works for him, so he is definitely the strongest, and he is the one who is allowed to stay. Survival of the strongest. The secret of the most famous universal myth brought by the theory of evolution. The phrase survival of the strongest or survival of the fittest is one of the most common rumors brought from the theory of evolution of the English scientist Charles Darwin, the owner of the most famous theory of evolution, especially during our observations of television channels that show us footage of the lion swooping on deer, and the attack of wolves on prey, etc. That is, because there is no doubt that at this moment we are surprisingly declaring that what we see is a living embodiment of the concept of the only system in nature, and that only those who will survive are the strongest. The first thing that blinds this blind faith in this rumor, as the book The 10 Most Popular Myths About Evolution, by Cameron Smith and Charles Sullivan, tells us, is that other lives do not witness such fierce competition, as there are other animals, who seek different food sources, in worlds where interspecies interventions are of mutual benefit. But what matters to us is knowing what the English scientist Charles Darwin wanted, from the phrase survival to the strongest, or survival to the fittest. In 1872, the author of the most famous theory of evolution wrote, or the fittest survival. Hence, we understand that in any community, individuals who possess adequate properties with their environments tend to stay at a greater rate than those who possess less appropriate properties that lead them to the risk of death. More importantly, Darwin did not define the attributes that we often associate with the idea of survival of the strongest, such as excessive force. In fact, he did not refer to any specific property such as huge muscles, sharp teeth, or the feeling of blood. Let me tell you that. Survival of the fittest. Yes. Looking at the condition of the human being, who is believed to be safe from the cruelty of nature due to our superiority in living in many environments, we will discover that we are in fact much weaker than animals. What means that the human race is always threatened quickly at birth, unlike many other animals, and for this, what distinguishes humans is their possession of the mind and not the muscle strength, which is what prompts us to correct the second phrase, or our concept of survival of the fittest, which means certainly, the most fit. The concept of fitness from the perspective of population genetics, which is the science of the genetics of biological societies, is the cosmic bet on your genetic potential as an individual. Fitness here is not a single physical feature such as the muscle device or the size of a tooth, but rather a measure of an individual's ability to reproduce, whatever this type, a bat mother of buffalo or even bamboo plant. By deconstructing the term survival of the fittest, science was able to see some important and hidden complications within it. Yes, the most fit survives, but in a very complex world of ever-changing selective pressures, there is not a single feature, such as excessive force, that guarantees survival in every circumstance. The most appropriate, most fit, depends on what you are, your place and your time. From the owner of the term survival of the fittest, Philosopher Herbert Spencer. Interested in development in the humanities, biology, natural history and physics, is Herbert Spencer, the British philosopher. Spencer is one of the most influential English thinkers at the end of the 19th century, and he is the second father of sociology after Auguste French, famous for his theory of evolution, and has based on this theory in laying the foundations for a sociological system, which confirms that development is towards social complexity and increasing degree of individualism, as society looks like a complex living organism. It was Spencer, not Darwin, who created the term survival of the fittest, although the term is usually attributed to Darwin, and Spencer contributed to the establishment of the concept of elevation, and gave him social dimensions, in what was later known as social Darwinism. The late philosopher was an enemy of war and imperialism, and that is why he opposed the American-Spanish War of 1898, worked as a civil engineer, but his early interest in writing made him work as an editor in an economic newspaper. During 1851, he joined a group that promoted free thought and reform, and specifically promoted the idea of evolution and advancement, and during his research in Thomas Malthus' theory, Spencer saw Malthusian theory as a general law suitable for humans as well as animals, where wars, disasters and epidemics work to correct the population increase, and from that moment onward Spencer was considered an important writer, and the term survival of the fittest was very popular. And his books contained various issues, and she saw the issue of development and advancement in various social aspects, where there is no place for the weak in the race of the strong. Social Darwinism formed in that period as an atonement for the tired conscience of humanity. Some of the works of the late philosopher include Social Statics, Foundations of Life Science, Foundations of Sociology, Foundations of Psychology, and Foundations of Ethics. We done now. Thanks for watching. Goodbye my friends.